Successful business from a traditional standpoint, at least, means, are you making money? Are you profitable? Not how many Instagram followers do you have? Hey everyone, what's up and welcome back to another episode of the Freelance Friday podcast. I'm your host, Latasha James. You can find me at the Latasha James anywhere that you would like to find me for the most part. And today we are doing a freelancing and social media management and entrepreneurship Q&A. So let's just hop in with the questions. First question was about Clubhouse. I've been getting a lot of questions about Clubhouse. What are my thoughts on the app? What are my tips for the app? And I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't really played around too much on there, but that is changing today. If you're watching and listening to this episode on launch day on Friday the 5th, I'm actually going to go ahead and do my first room at 9 a.m. Eastern time. So sorry if you're tuning in a little bit later than that, but hopefully you can catch it. And the idea is that we're going to do these regularly, maybe every week or every other week or so, to chat about whatever we talked about on the podcast. I figured this would be a good toe dip in the water of Clubhouse because it is a completely new platform for me. So I'll have the room linked down in the show notes and description box if you do want to drop in and hop on stage with me. I don't know, I'm a total newbie. But let's talk a little bit more strategically for clients and for business in general. What are my thoughts on Clubhouse? I think it's cool. I think anything that people are getting that excited about, we should pay attention to. But I also will say that I'm old school. I've been around for a while and I still have this screenshot, I'll try to find it, of me asking anybody if they wanted an invite to Google Wave, which then became Google Plus and eventually died out. So with that said, I think it's important to test things, try things. Do they really work for your audience or is it just a fad? And don't put all of your eggs in that basket either, because until they really prove themselves, these platforms, meaning they have a good monetization strategy, that's something that's really required for any creator-driven platform to really thrive, in my opinion. Until they figure that stuff out, it could go away, it could fizzle out like Vine, like Google Plus and Wave, like kind of Snapchat. Snapchat's still kind of hanging on, but I mean, you don't hear people talking about it like they once did. So there's that. I say go into it with an open mind, test it out. If it works for you, amazing. My other big concern about it though is that as of now, you can't repurpose the content. And repurposing is a big, huge part of my content creation process because, it takes a lot of time to do all this stuff. And if YouTube videos just lived on YouTube and that was it, that would be hard. But I'm repurposing this content onto a podcast. I can easily repurpose it into a blog, an Instagram post, a LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that. And as of now, Clubhouse actually doesn't allow recording. So that is concerning to me as a content creator. I can't imagine spending, hours upon hours a week in Clubhouse rooms if I couldn't use it any other way. How do you handle it when your workload doubles? I'm new and just signed a big client. Well, first of all, congratulations. Take a second to stop and smell the roses and be excited. That's my advice. Whenever I sign a new client, I always try to do something fun, whether it's just going to grab a cup of coffee, ordering in some nice dinner, doing something I like to do. I think it is important to celebrate those things. But with that said, it's time to get to work as well after you do that little celebration. So here's the thing. There's only really one variable in this whole equation that you cannot create more of. You can always make more money. You can always find new clients. You can always drop clients. You can always hire people. You can always fire people. But what you can't do is you cannot make more time. You can't get more time. So there's really two options when you get busy and you get overwhelmed. You can either get extra hands, hire people, or take on fewer contracts, meaning you're going to need to raise your rates. So here's a hypothetical situation. Let's say that right now you have 5 clients and they're at $800 a month. That's what you're charging them. But you just signed a big client for $2,500 and you're like, yay, I did it, but now I'm stressed out and overwhelmed. So here's what I would do. For new clients, new inquiries that come in, that $2,500 is going to be your minimum. That is going to be your starting price or your regular price, if you will. And I say this because it's a lot easier to do something that you've already done once. And if somebody is willing to pay you $2,500 for something, somebody else is going to be as well. It's very rare that you just got the random fluke of the bunch. Usually it means that is a price that some people are willing to pay. Now, of course, there's going to be some people who aren't willing to pay that, but go with that for your new standard. Now, for your existing clients who are at that $800 rate, obviously you have to honor whatever is in your contract. So maybe if you are in the middle of a 6-month or year-long contract, you do need to just hire some freelancers to help you kind of take some of that work off of your plate. But if you're coming up on a renewal, what I would do is I would probably meet somewhere in the middle. I would raise their rate, but I also don't think $800 to $2,500 is really a reasonable jump. In general, I would maybe start them at let's say $1,200. Now, here's the thing. You're probably going to lose some of those $800 clients if they get a $400 increase. You probably are, and you have to accept that is okay, that is just a part of the game. What do you do when you're having a really bad mental health day, but you have loads of work to do? Okay, first of all, I hope that you're feeling better. I've been struggling a little bit. I think we all are in this season of life right now in the world. It's just been really weird. So I hope you're doing okay. What I do when I'm in that situation is, number one, I prioritize, because if you are listening to this podcast, you are probably, from what I know of my listeners and viewers, you guys are amazing, smart, go-getters, hustlers. You're not afraid to put in hard work, maybe even a little bit of overachievers. And that's a good thing, but it means that we probably put a lot of pressure on ourselves that isn't always necessary. So chances are you're working on something that is going above and beyond. You're working ahead on something. You're doing 110% when really it's okay to give 100 or even 95% sometimes. So prioritize. What has tight deadlines? What is due right now? What is important? I always say, what is going to lose people money? So if there's a project that I'm working on that is a revenue driver for a client, that's priority for me. I also find getting outside and doing something really helps, which again, I know is hard these days, but even if it's just taking a walk, going to grab a coffee, picking up lunch, if you do have anyone in your pod who you can see, that is very helpful for me. And then usually once I do that, I'm ready to get back to work in the evening or the afternoon or whatever. But I also think it's important to be honest with yourself and your clients. Now, you might not be comfortable telling your clients, hey, I'm having a bad mental health day, right? I'm not implying that necessarily unless you do have a close relationship, but mental health is health, right? If I broke my arm, I wouldn't be recording this podcast right now. Probably. If I had the flu or strep throat, I definitely would not be recording this podcast right now. So if you would take a day off for your physical health, why not for your mental health? And I don't think that you need to, like I said, be completely open about the struggles you're going through, but you can simply say, hey, I'm really not feeling well today. Can we push our regular call until Monday? Or, I'm really feeling under the weather today. I need to take a day. Is there anything that's super high priority that you need me to do today? I've totally used those lines, and they're not untrue. They're not a lie. If you're feeling unwell, you're feeling unwell. They don't need to know if it's physical or mental necessarily. Tips for delegation. I am too much of a control freak to let go sometimes. Who are you telling? I can definitely relate to this. I've gotten better about it though recently because I just had to. That math that we did earlier, it gets to a point where I cannot do everything. I'm physically unable to do everything and mentally unable to do everything. So start small. Start with a really small task. An example of this, one of my first freelance gigs actually was writing social media posts. So I wasn't even scheduling or publishing or doing any engagement. I was just writing captions basically for content and submitting them to an agency. So that's a really easy first step because you still kind of have control over the final product. You can still tweak it before it goes live on your account or clients' accounts. You can still send it back for revisions. It's not so complete as do this. Another good starting point to kind of test how people are going to do is engagement, giving them the keys to an Instagram account, let's say, and just going after a list of hashtags and making sure to comment or checking inboxes, things like that. I will also say, don't give away what's closest to your heart and what's central to the business. My example is always video. I will probably die with Final Cut Pro open on my laptop. I'm telling you, I will be 90 years old with Final Cut open in a hospital bed. I cannot quit this thing. And I know that I need to because it takes up so much of my time. Not only do I shoot videos for my own channel, but I also shoot videos for clients, and I need to hire a video editor. So honestly, if you ever wanted to pitch me, this is probably the time. I'm going to regret saying this probably, but this is probably the only time that I will pay attention to a cold pitch because it's time. But with that said, it's going to be a hard sell because it is very, very close to my heart. It's something I really love to do. And I really feel like it communicates my brand to the world. I feel like it's quite important, So that's something that after all these years, I still have not outsourced, even though I know that I probably should. And then I'll also say hire for your weaknesses. So there are certain things that I know I'm pretty good at. I'm pretty good at writing. So it's kind of hard to impress me, when it comes to hiring a writer because I don't know. I just have a way that I see things need to be with writing. But what I'm not good at is doing cold pitches, cold emails. I'm not a PR person. I actually don't like that stuff. I've actually thought about hiring somebody because I know that I really need to be doing sponsorships for the podcast and the YouTube channel and just getting my name out there more in that space, having somebody help me manage my partnerships, all that stuff. And I just it stresses me out. So I don't do it. So again, shoot your shot. If you are a PR person and you offer this service, shoot your shot, I'll read it. If a PR intern was able to secure like one sponsorship a month for the podcast, I would be like, oh my gosh, snaps, that's better than what we were doing. But if I'm asking somebody to write these really insightful Instagram captions and they fall short, that's like, it doesn't impress me much. Do you know what I mean? So those are my tips for that. I hope that helps. How do you handle changing algorithms? Okay, this is a hot topic and I know people hate when I say this. I know it so much and I'm sorry, but I honestly don't pay that much attention to the algorithm. Do I pay attention to it at all? Yes, of course. I think it's important to be informed. I try to, consume content every once in a while that keeps me up to date on the latest that's going on with social. And of course, I just see it. Like right now, I know that I don't know if something's going on with the algorithm or if my content just sucks because my engagement is down right now on Instagram. But I think a lot of it's because of the content, to be honest, because I just haven't had like great content to post. But either way, I definitely see those things and recognize when things aren't performing as usual. My thought is always this: you gotta control what you can control, and I cannot control the algorithm. There are certain little hacks and tweaks that allegedly help, but like for the most part, content is king. Post good content and good things will happen. Like I very much believe that because you can post all the hacks in the world and I see it all the time. Again, I'm not trying to pick on people. I'm admitting that my content is not great right now on Instagram, but posting reels just to post reels, I don't know how much that's genuinely helping you because you might be getting in front of more people, but is your message resonating with them when you're just doing something that everybody else is doing and kind of copycatting or obviously trying to hack the algorithm? I don't know. I get clients organically without having to do all of those things. And it's because I put thought and effort into my content. And I'm not saying I'm special. Anybody else can do that. So my point is don't get too hung up on that. Think about your content. And of course, keep track of your KPIs or your key performance indicators. So I do have a spreadsheet and this helps me. I pull these numbers every month. I pull, how much engagement I'm getting, how my follower growth is growing, clicks to my website, conversions, calls booked, course sales, all that kind of stuff. And what you're going to do is that if you start to see a trend and you're like, oh my gosh, engagement is way down, and all those other KPIs like website clicks, like sales, those are down too. Okay, then we have a problem. We need to really switch something up. But like for me, last month was a bad engagement month for me on Instagram. But guess what? It was my biggest course sale month ever. So I'm not going to panic quite yet. Clearly the people who are seeing my content are still being compelled and still being moved by it to become clients and to purchase my courses. So I'm not going to panic yet. So keep your KPIs in mind. Try not to get overwhelmed by What's trendy? I know that was not a great answer. Nobody likes it when I say that. I'm sorry. What contract system do you use? So I've talked about HoneyBook before, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it's a great tool. I have a couple of different videos on my YouTube channel about it, and it's really easy to use. And I do have a link for $1 per month for your first 8 months. It is only good until I think like Valentine's Day time. So if you're interested, if you've been on the fence, just give it a go. Now is the time to click that link. It is an affiliate link. Full transparency, I'm a HoneyBook educator, so that's pretty cool. But it's a great tool. I mean, I do everything. I hold all my email templates in there, have contract templates in there. They have their own templates that you can tweak and use. So that is what I use. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it for anyone, for a coach, a social media manager, a photographer, a videographer, anything. What would you say to your past self when you first started your journey? Ooh, that is a tough one. I would probably say it's going to be okay. I know that's like super cheesy. Let me get more cheesy here, but I love the saying, you've already gotten through 100% of your worst days or something like that. I think it's so powerful and it's so true because every time that I've panicked, I mean, I've literally had like panic attacks and things like that before, thinking about, oh my gosh, my business is going to fail. I'm not going to get clients. You know, I lose a big client and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's over. Like, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me before. And I've made it through, and made it through, not just barely scraping by, but doing it in a way that really fulfills me and that gives me a comfortable quality of life. So I would tell myself it's going to be okay. You know, I think that as long as you are doing things that are moving you forward, again, just like the content answer, good things will come. That means as long as you are connecting with people, you're doing coffee meetings, you're doing webinars if you don't have clients, you're searching Upwork for jobs, you're getting active on LinkedIn, updating your profile on LinkedIn, creating genuinely meaningful content, not content that's trying to hack anything or skirt the system, but content that genuinely helps people, good things will come. They might not come that second, but as long as you're progressing and moving your business forward in that way, I have found that I am able to keep it moving. I got a lot of questions about this topic. This one in particular says, how do you manage remote work for clients in different time zones? And then I've also had a couple questions about how do you take photos for clients? How do you get content for clients that are not local? So I'll kind of answer all of those. Buckle in, this might be a long one. So how do you manage remote work for clients in different time zones? So that one is pretty easy for me. I mean, I work with clients in Europe, so they're like 6 to 7 hours ahead. And then I work with clients on the West Coast, so they're 3 hours behind. So I try to group those calls together. So like maybe Monday is West Coast day and then Thursdays are Europe day or whatever, just so that I'm not working from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m. I can either have like an early day or a late day. But generally speaking, I mean, I don't know where you're located, but most time zones have at least a couple hours of crossover. So it's not really an issue for me. Obviously, I'm just more flexible with those clients. I'll send them my scheduling link, but I'm like, hey, I know that you're in Europe, so if there's no convenient times, let me know. Same thing for West Coast if I don't have a lot of afternoon availability. Now, as far as the content piece, so this is a loaded question. It's a really loaded question. Where do I start? Okay, so number one, I don't have any local clients right now. And I really never have. I've only had a handful of clients in my area. That's just, it's not really like any reason. I just never have done a big local effort in my marketing. Most of my marketing is global. Really, it's online. So I have clients all over. So I'll do a couple things. For some of my clients, I am actually acting as essentially one of the faces of their business. You know, I will create videos, I will create content just like this basically for my clients. That's obviously not a reality for everybody because everybody isn't comfortable on camera. Everybody doesn't want to do that, whatever. So that's one thing that you can do though. Another thing that I have done and that I would recommend is giving like a guide, basically a style guide essentially for your clients. So let's say that the CEO wants to create videos like this or TikToks or Instagram Reels or whatever it is, Clubhouse, you know, create a document, like a presentation that shows, hey, here is exactly what you need to use. Here's all of just formats and everything that I'm going to need, just every little detail, send that over to them so they know, give them some content suggestions, and then they can just flip the files back over to you. I really like WeTransfer. It's free. You can do free for like up to a certain file size limit, but it's pretty big. It's better than Google Drive for me because I hate clogging up my Google Drive. And then you can also, if it's a big client, now obviously I don't recommend doing this unless you are getting a good, healthy amount of cash, but you can travel. When we can travel, of course. So this is something that I've done as well. I've traveled to New York, to LA. I've traveled all over to help host events and capture footage and capture content at those events and, meet with brands and take photos there and things like that. So that's something you can do as well. But like I said, those were either bigger contracts and I was footing that bill, or the client themselves was footing the bill in addition to what they're already paying me. I got a question that says office decor inspo. If you only could see my office right now, it's so messy outside of this desk, but I am actually planning on revamping my office. So I'm going to do a video on this soon. So stay tuned to me on YouTube and I'll show you kind of an office tour. But actually I do have a video that was like all of my favorite Amazon home office items. So it does have some decor, some more practical items. So I'll link that in the show notes. How to generate leads for a marketing agency via content marketing. Okay, so I'm not going to say it depends, but it does depend. I want you to think about what your core offer is. This is something that I've really been challenging myself to do lately too, is I've tried to get away from number one saying marketing agency. If you're a full service digital marketing agency or marketing agency, then that's cool. But most of us have some kind of a specialty. Maybe it's websites, maybe it's Google ads, maybe it's Facebook ads, maybe it's like me, I do a lot of strategy work. I do a lot of content creation. So figure out what your key offer is going to be. And then essentially just try to put yourself in the shoes of somebody who is shopping for that service. So let's say that it's blogging. I don't offer this, but let's say that you really specialize in content marketing. Use like Google Keyword Planner, search on YouTube, search on Google, and see what comes up for how to outsource blogs, where to find freelance writers, queries like that, and try to proactively answer that question in a piece of content. So maybe it's a YouTube video, maybe it's a webinar, maybe it's an ebook, and again, that's going to depend on what your strengths are. Do you like to be on video? Do you like to talk a lot? Do you like to talk a lot? Maybe you do a recurring Clubhouse series, you start a podcast based on that topic, just answering those questions and highlighting leaders in that industry, etc. Maybe you're not into talking, you're not into being on video, so you decide to do an ebook. Do some research and put together a really meaty, informative ebook based around that topic. Then what you're going to want to do is, regardless of the type of content, you're going to want to have some type of call to action and a way for them to enter your funnel. And this is another question. It said, what do you think of funnels and do you do a lot of it? So here's what a funnel is. A funnel is basically just the way that you get people from here, free content, learning about you, to a sale. So have some way for them to enter that, meaning you're capturing their email address. This is like the easiest way to build a funnel, in my opinion. Build out a freebie, use MailerLite, use, what am I using now? Flowdesk. I'll have a link for that down below. Build a landing page, get them on your email list, add them to a nurture sequence, which basically means you're going to send them emails once in a while, giving them value, giving them content, but also giving them a call to action to book a call with you, to join a free webinar, to buy something small so that they'll work their way up. And that's really like the simplest version of a funnel. I mean, of course, we can get way more complex, but I think that's what I recommend. The things that have been most successful for me personally have been YouTube content and webinar content. But again, I think I'm very comfortable on video. I'm more comfortable on video than in real life, believe it or not. Next question. Is it normal to rebrand my own existing brand after I finally know my niche? Yeah, I think so. I think it depends on how deep are you? I mean, you said you're in baby stage. So at that point, I'd say just do it. Do it now. I've kind of did something similar. If anyone followed me way back in the day, my username on Instagram was something else. My website was actually something else. But before I had kind of gotten in too deep, essentially, I switched things around and it was a little bit of a pain. You got to redirect a little bit of things, but it's fine. It's better to do it now than when you have a big following or a big, customer base. So yeah, and you definitely do want to speak to that niche. So if you didn't have one before and you were just kind of serving everybody, it totally is understandable how you don't have much of a brand identity or you're not really targeting anyone in particular. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you are strictly going after beauty brands or food brands or whatever, you're going to want a certain look and feel to your website that might be a little more whimsical and fun and playful than if you were targeting lawyers and insurance agents, you know? So absolutely, I think that's totally fine to do. Do you create an LLC if you want to begin working as a freelancer? So I'm not a lawyer. I am just a consumer of these things. I just do what people tell me to do, who are experts, who get degrees in these things. My personal experience is that I did start an LLC. I did not start an LLC the day I began freelancing, though. I actually started freelancing through Upwork. And what is nice about Upwork is that you're not going to have to deal with 50 million different 1099s at the end of the year. You just have this one little printout from Upwork. You can work as an independent contractor, just a person using your own social security number versus an LLC with an EIN number. So I did not. I often link over to the Small Business Association. I think it's sba.gov, and they have some really good resources. You can also look at Score Mentors. That's another one. They're free mentors who are more helpful in that traditional like legal business entity stuff like that. But my personal experience is that no, I did not need an LLC on day one. I actually didn't start an LLC until I was like a few years into business. Do you have a course that can guide social media managers with social media analytics? So I don't, but I want you to stay tuned. I'll go ahead and make a landing page. If you're interested, I've been kind of teasing that I'm going to be launching this intensive program for social media managers, and my goal is to have that up and launched in March. So I'm going to leave the landing page down below. This is just an interest form. You're not committing to anything. But for this first cohort, when I launch in March-ish, I'm only going to be taking 100 people. So it is going to be limited. So get your name on the list. If you're interested, I'll send you an email as soon as ticketing is available for that. Basically, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing a deep dive into social media strategy. I've gotten feedback from people that my signature course, How to Become a Social Media Manager, is very helpful, but it really was designed to help people who already knew how to do social media management and just teach them how to build a business off of that skill. So what's happened is I've gotten a lot of people who are new to the field, which is amazing, which is great. And so I want to kind of take you back to basics and teach you how to understand analytics, how to develop a strategy, just how to actually do social media management, not just the business side. So I'm going to do an intensive class or series of classes. Basically, it's going to be sort of like a group coaching program. So that is coming. But if you're looking for knowledge right now, of course, check out HubSpot. I believe that they have a social media analytics class. I could be mistaken, but check out their courses either way. They're free and they're awesome. And then I also do have a series on this channel. I'll try to link them. But if you just search in the search bar, Latasha James Analytics Week, Latasha James Instagram Insights, Latasha James Facebook Insights, things like that, it should come up. And I did a breakdown of each of the major platforms and how to read the analytics. Of course, they're a couple years old, I think, so they're a little bit out of date, but you can absolutely still apply those things to the updated interfaces. What is your favorite part about owning your own business? Ooh, people don't ask me this one a lot. Honestly, it's just being in charge of my life. That's it. Right now, it's 3:10 p.m. I could just be like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I could go take a walk. I could call my mom and talk to her for an hour if I wanted to. I could do whatever I wanted, really. I mean, yes, we still do have to answer to our clients. We still do have to make sure that we're meeting our deadlines and making them happy. But day to day, it doesn't really matter. I can work at midnight if I want to. But also something that I've learned, it's funny because I used to always say I hate math. I'm so bad at math. I actually kind of like math. I'm not great at it, but it's kind of fun if you can sort of gamify business. I'll be like, okay, I made this much in 1 month. Let me see if I can double that. Let me see if I can beat my highest month ever. Let me pull levers on things that worked to increase these numbers and change these variables. Once you kind of start to think of it just as a math problem, the answers become sort of easy. So it's kind of weirdly fun in that way. It's like you're competitive with yourself. When going freelance, should I prioritize growing my socials or getting clients? Oh my gosh, I love this question. Please please, please, please prioritize getting clients. I see a lot of people get hung up with growing their social channels. Let me tell you something. My Facebook page has like 200 followers. My Instagram has like 1,000 for my agency. Of course, I have more followers than that personally, but I did not start the business, start trying to get clients with all of these followers. And listen, I think it's important. I'm a big fan of the personal brand. I think it does matter. I'm not going to tell you, no, don't do anything at all, but don't get hung up on it. If you want your business to be sustainable, meaning you are sustaining yourself, you are making money, you are profitable, you are a successful business, because followers don't get you money. They just don't. Successful business from a traditional standpoint, at least, means, are you making money? Are you profitable? Not how many Instagram followers do you have. Obviously, like I said, I'm not saying don't post on Instagram ever, but yes, you should focus on getting clients first. And some of the ways that you might get clients might involve social media. It might mean if your ideal client is on Instagram, then it might mean that you're posting on Instagram a lot. If your ideal client's on LinkedIn, you might be posting on LinkedIn a lot. But for some of us, we just need to get on Upwork. And I'm not like an Upwork spokesperson. They're not paying me or anything. I think there's a lot of drawbacks to the platform personally. But for some of us, it just means we need to just hustle for a little bit, earn some money, and then we can kind of diversify on month 2, month 3, and really start to build out that brand. But if you're quitting your job day one and you just need to make up that salary, go on Upwork, go on LinkedIn, go on Indeed, go, wherever, and start looking for freelance contracts instead of posting on Instagram all day. Here's another good question. I wanted to make sure I address this today. How many clients do you have at the moment? So I want to be really transparent. And I've said this multiple times in my vlogs and stuff, but I am not taking a lot of full service clients right now. I actually only have one full service client, meaning I'm doing their social, I'm creating the content, I'm, doing it kind of end to end. I think that's it. And then I'm kind of the agency on call for multiple different companies, meaning that if they need something, they can reach out to me and I'm kind of their go-to agency, but they have their own social teams that do things most of the time. I'm just being brought in for strategic things, or if they need an extra hand doing copywriting or creation or something like that. And then I have a couple of content creation clients, a handful of them. The rest of my work is coaching and courses and YouTube. How many things can I do? It's a lot. So I'm spending about 10 to 15 hours a week doing coaching, spending about 10 to 15 hours a week doing YouTube, and probably, like 10 hours or so of work doing agency work. And then the courses don't really take up a lot of time. I am revamping them now though, so it is taking time that I really don't have. As you can see, there's no time. And then I do have a small team that works with me, of course, working primarily on the agency side of things. So I'm obviously doing all the coaching stuff. I'm obviously doing the YouTube stuff. So yeah, I just want to be honest, because I don't ever want it to seem like how do I say this without having to put my foot in my mouth? I don't want to be rude is what I'm trying to. I always wanted to be a practitioner as well. I never want to say, oh, I'm going to be this educator or this coach. I'm going to tell people how to do stuff that I'm not even doing. Now, a year ago, I had about 10 full service social media management clients at this time. But over time, as this side of the business has grown, it's not possible for me to do anymore. But it's really important to me that I always have at least one client that I'm kind of in the weeds with doing social media management, because how am I supposed to tell you how to do something or give advice on something that I'm not doing anymore and I'm out of touch with? And again, I just want to say that I have done social media management for like 7 years. So I have done it for a long time for many different companies. So I'm definitely not somebody who's blowing smoke and saying, hey, here's the things to do, but I've never really done it. So just want to clear that up. Which business insurance do you use and how quick should I get mine after I start? Again, I'm not an expert in this stuff. I'm just a consumer, but I use Hiscox. It's one of the most famous ones, and mine's pretty basic. It's like $50 or $60 a month. I think it's called a general errors and omission insurance. They recommend this for people who give advice, consultants, because if I were to say, hey, client, you need to start posting on Reels every single day. And so they abandoned all of their other marketing efforts and they put all their effort in Reels, and then they saw a dramatic revenue loss because of my advice. And then they wanted to sue me for it. Basically, it's saying that's what we're protecting you against, from my understanding. Now, in terms of when you need to get that, again, I'm a consumer. I'm not an insurance agent, talk to an insurance agent, honestly. But I decided I wanted to get it once I started making an amount that made me a little uncomfortable, where I started to get real contracts and started to make a real salary, essentially. That's when I was like, it's probably a good idea to have this. Also, like I said, if you are giving advice to people that impacts revenue, I think it's a good idea personally. And then lastly, if you have a brick and mortar, that's really important too. So if you have an office where clients are coming to and they're meeting you, my advice would be to probably look into it, because if they do slip and fall on your property, if you didn't shovel, the snow, I don't know. These are just hypotheticals. It would be a good idea to have that. Tips for speeding up content creation. This one's hard because honestly, content creation takes time. I wish I knew. The only things that I really know how to say are batch your content. So especially if you're doing video content, batch, film as much as you can in one day while you have everything set up, while you're all set up, because that's the stuff that takes time. Drives me nuts. I hate getting ready. I really do. I hate putting on clothes and makeup because it takes a long time. It takes like an hour to get ready. Same thing for photos. Like if you do have clients that are local and you're going to their shop and taking pictures of clothes, as opposed to saying, oh, I'm going to come in every Monday, try to just do a full day. I'm going to stay there Monday, the 1st, all day long and get all the content that I need. I don't know. I think those are my biggest tips, honestly. And then repurpose your content as well. You don't need to create a new piece of content every single day. Repurpose. I'm a big fan of repurposing. I do like the tool Descript for repurposing audio content and video content into like little snippets. Headliners, another good one. That's actually a free thing that you can do. So yeah, that's all I got. What kind of niches do you think it's difficult to make content for? This is a hard question to answer. I guess we'll say the types of niches that I find it easiest to create content for. And for me personally, it's going to be any type of physical good. So like I worked with an influencer marketing company for a long time. They were one of my first big freelance clients, and they did a lot of cosmetics, skincare. And that was easy for me because I could take pictures of it. I didn't need to like put it on. I could take photos, flat lays, stuff like that. And I'm slightly knowledgeable about that stuff. At the time I was doing a lot more beauty content. That probably wouldn't be easy to, somebody who has never worn makeup before or didn't know like makeup trends. So again, that depends. But I think physical goods, even if it's like a t-shirt company or knickknacks for the home or whatever, I think those are a little easier just because you have something to take a picture of or to take a video of. You have a subject. Some of the harder things are like tech. That's what I work with a lot. I work with a lot of softwares, a lot of e-learning companies, and that's why I'm creating content like this. Essentially, you really do need to have a subject. So it's hard, but it's easy for me because I like doing it, but it is hard if you were like a CEO who didn't like to be on camera, didn't like to use their voice for a screen share tutorial. You would need to probably outsource that to somebody. Last question I'm going to answer. What about clients who are also family? Do they get contracts too? How do you set boundaries? Yes, they do get contracts too. Even a free client, a portfolio project should have a contract. I firmly believe that. Obviously, like if it was my mom, I probably wouldn't, just because that's too weird for me, honestly. But I also know my mom would never try to sue me. I'm not saying they're going to sue you. I'm just saying they might argue that, hey, you didn't actually do what you said you were going to do. It just keeps everything in line. And it also helps you practice, and you can even explain that to them. If you feel awkward and weird about that, just say, hey, I'm using you as like a portfolio project. Basically, I'm using, this experience to learn. And I'd really like to go through the full process with you so that way you can get feedback on it too. If they say, oh, that contract was like really hard to sign, you put me through all these hoops, maybe you can investigate a different platform to use to sign contracts and things like that. So do it just for practice. You can use that as your excuse, making sure that they know it is still real, but just telling them, hey, I just want to practice the full path. How do you set boundaries? Just like you would for anybody else. I mean, obviously they know your phone number, they know where you live, so that makes it a little hard. But I would just say to them, again, I'm using this as a kind of a practice contract. So it would be great if we can really stick to my business hours, my preferred methods of communication, just so I can get that flow down. So you can, again, kind of use that as an excuse. But I would also I say this to anybody. I say this to friends who send me like Instagram DMs. I know I'm trying to get over it. I'm trying to get better about answering DMs, but like, I'm very old school in that email me. If you have a business question, please email me, because Instagram is like for fun. And so I will tell people if they DM me and they're like asking to book a coaching package, I will send them the link to my coaching form and it will say, could you please fill this out? And then I'm going to follow up with you via email. So I do the same thing for family. Of course, if it gets out of control, if it's in your contract, what your business hours are and all of that, then it's in your contract. So you can kindly let them know, hey, as a reminder, we're not supposed to be having impromptu 11 p.m. calls. And you signed off on it. So I love you, but no. All right. This was the longest Q&A ever, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. And once again, I'll be on Clubhouse today at 9 a.m. Eastern. And I also will leave that sign up form if you're interested in learning more about the social media management intensive program that I'll be launching this spring. You can pop your email in. You're not signing up to buy anything, but you're just saying, a little hand raise that you want more info on it when it does become available. It is going to be a more premium product, so it's not going to be a $50 course. It will be a beta test. This first round is going to be a beta test limited to only 100 people, so it will be at a much more affordable rate than the regular rate if I decide to replicate it, but it is not going to be $50. So just putting the intentions out there, if you put your name down, just so you know that. I don't want to set any false expectations there. So thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I appreciate you. Subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you next week for a new video and podcast. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Show notes for this episode are available at latashajames.com/podcast and contain all of the links I may have mentioned today, as well as an invitation to join my private Facebook group, the Freelance Friday podcast community. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.